Hi, I'm Janice Fingler.
And I'm Gary Wong.
We're both from Vancouver, British Columbia. Unfortunately, the third member of our team, Michael Cheveldave, couldn't be with us today. Our Disrupt Mining proposal is about the people who make their living in the mining industry. We agree that mining has seen far fewer revolutionary advancements that significantly alter the way the sector operates. Safety is no exception to that. I come from a background of about 30 years on the ground exploration, from grassroots with prospectors to advanced pre-feasibility projects, world-class ones in South America. Over those years through the life cycle of the mining sector and also the years, I've loved the diversity, the patterns, and also the stories that are shared along the way. I noticed that some companies were doing very well in the industry and seemed to be making the right decisions. And then I also noticed there was many others that were struggling along the way. And I wondered about that. And people themselves sometimes had a lot of struggles. One thing that was a challenge at times was actually dealing with safety. On the exploration side, there are not always a lot of resources available. So I was curious about that. How can I help to deal and help people through this struggle? So I joined CIM's Leading in Mining program, and I also volunteered as chair of AME's Environmental Health and Safety Committee. Now with that committee, we had a campaign where we decided we wanted to look for new members, and particularly people who were new to the industry, new professionals, because we were making all these tools to help them, but yet, whoa, were we even listening or asking? Or what did they need? What did they think? So anyways, we found a potential, and I went for beers with him, a new 5-year grad. And as the beers flowed, so did our stories about safety. And the shocking thing for both of us was that although we were 25 years apart in our career paths, the safety issues, many of them seemed to be the same. So after that conversation, that really spurred me on and burned in me. I really wanted to learn more about what's with this complexity. I needed to learn more about complexity science. And I switched to becoming a coach for project managers to help them navigate that space.
I started my career as an electrical engineer and later moved into management. In operations, where I spent a lot of time, I supervised unionized work crews and office staff. Safety has always been high on my agenda. Besides having line responsibility for the safety of people under me, I've worked on safety committees and conducted accident investigations. However, something has always really bothered me, that the number of reports that I produce seem to always end up on the shelf, and the few recommendations implemented really made little difference. For a few months, things were fine, but eventually, old habits would return, and sure enough, there would be another accident. I realized that what I was experiencing over and over and over again is something called drift into failure. So I started to do some further reading in safety as well as in complexity science, and it helped me to understand that I wasn't alone in my frustrations.
Well, yes, Gary, that reminded me of those conversations, not only with our new recruit for the committee, but also with many other new people and senior people in the industry as well. We're all worried that there could be more disasters and failures looking for a place and time to happen. It could be a miner crushed by a rockfall, a tailings dam burst, even a wrong interpretation of geology. Those all hurt people, families, and the environment, as well as our industry. Clearly, there's a lot of more work to do in the area of safety. However, our combined experiences raised concerns, and it's based on Albert Einstein's quote. We need to change thinking in safety, otherwise we will repeat the past, as our new committee recruit and I found out. And that's what our disruptive idea proposes to do. Applying a complexity-based approach to safety would be how we could disrupt mining safety. Michael Chevelday is a key member of the team. As the VP of Business Development at Cognitive Edge, he supports Gary and I. We are two in the network of over 6,000 practitioners in more than 41 countries. Through Cognitive Edge's complexity training, we have a more complete view of the real world. More importantly, Michael will bring the knowledge, skills, and experience to apply the SenseMaker suite of tools to make safety culture in order to positively shape it.
Safety has evolved over a timeline stretching back 250 years, when humans first introduced machines into the workplace. When the age of technology began, a paradigm emerged that Eric Hollnagel labeled Safety 1. Safety 1 focuses on what's going wrong, while the thinking how we treat humans has evolved to see people in a much better light. The opposite has occurred in safety. Safety 1 has been reinforced over many years and continues to be the dominant way to think about safety. In the Safety 1 paradigm, workers are seen as hazards that must be constrained with safety policies, standards, systems, and rules. Management is then tasked to do compliance audits, complete checklists, and run surprise inspections to ensure everyone is towing the line. In Safety 1, a safe system means nothing unwanted happens. But as Eric is quick to point out, the absence of accidents does not mean the presence of safety. One way to determine how a company thinks about safety is what gets measured and reported. In a Safety 1 mindset, we measure performance by the absence of unwanted happenings. So the emphasis is on reporting fatalities, near misses, and lost time injuries. As new technologies are implemented, new safety issues we know will be created. In safety by design, we first attempt to eliminate a safety problem. If we can't, then we install monitoring gauges to know when a machine goes into overload. But what about humans? Our first impulse is to add more policies, standards, and rules to mitigate known risk. This is a Safety 1 solution. But will workers be able to cognitively absorb the additional load and remember everything? Or are they already overburdened? How can we be alerted when an overloaded individual one day reaches a tipping point, resulting in some sort of a bad outcome?
Yeah, Gary, that's pretty profound. And it makes me also think about these young geologists, as that story I told. There's many of them that, because of some of the failures that have happened, have rules and regulations come on board. But now they also have a lot more responsibilities than even 25 years ago. And how do they deal with that overload when maybe they don't even have the authority to act? It's a pretty fragile environment.
Now you've heard our concerns about mining safety. So let's talk about our disruptive idea. We'll start by opening both eyes with complexity science. Narrative inquiry means collecting stories. But how do you make sense of 1,000 stories? Just as we do in mining, we can also produce 3D graphics. Then you can actually see what your safety culture looks like. Change leadership is different than change management. We realize we do not control people and cannot force them to alter how they behave. Instead, we focus on relationships between people. By modifying system constraints, we influence interactions so that individuals choose to change their behavior to be more acceptable. Under exploration, we'll explore the safety culture by mining stories.
Well, and it truly does seem analogous to mineral exploration, for example. In the early stages where the stories are almost like rock and soil samples that we collect. And we can collect them in groups or as individuals, face to face or using a computer. And even besides stories, our rocks could be voice recordings or photos. Now, it's the storytellers themselves who also provide the meaning of their experience through what we call signifiers. And the meanings indicated are attached to that story, or like that rock sample, like multi-element geochemical analyses that characterize that rock, or as in this case, that experience. Then we'll put them through a processor called SenseMaker that converts the qualitative meanings into quantitative data points. And then the entire data set is ready for data visualization.
Under discovery, we'll discover the patterns that cause people to act and decide.
And similarly, as we use our data and put it into GIS or specialized geophysical software, the data can be viewed in various ways. Triads as dyads, and even 3D fitness landscapes. Our gold nuggets really are the patterns we can discover to make sense of the safety issues. Now, in our database, we'll also be able to dig deeper. If we wonder or query what's in a cluster of rocks or going on between them, we can select any one of the data points and read that associated story. Now we have a better understanding of why the storyteller decided to act in a certain way. Now we're wondering, hey, are there any other storytellers making similar decisions?
Under economics, we want to engage your entire workforce efficiently and cost-effectively.
Traditional surveys and interviews are costly snapshots in time. What we do is give every person the opportunity to tell his or her stories no matter where they live, and for the cost of a staff meeting or an internet connection. And online stories can be collected whenever it suits the storyteller, 24/7, 365, at work or at home. This brings employee engagement to a much higher level. Those stories are key records of the company's history and its corporate memory. We treat them as valued assets and can recall them to monitor our progress over time.
Under development, we'll develop interventions to shape the safety culture.
Here you can see, for example, in data analysis, you can see that the green area in the upper right corner, if that's where we want to be, and notice there's a few points there. There's already a few stories in that area. Now, when we intervene, we ask, how might we get more stories right here in the green and fewer stories there in the red or in the brown? Well, we can tell people where we want them to be, but that would be a safety one paradigm. Instead, we nudge. That means that what we do is we influence the people through things that resonate with them, and so that they can make choices that on their own behalf to help us as a whole organization move forward to what we collectively want to do and achieve.
Under mining, we'll introduce something called a human sensor network, because what we want to do is mine the human sensor network to build resilience and sustainability.
Yeah, at mine sites, we've got a lot of gauges and sensors, technology used for real-time monitoring to see what's going right and what's going wrong. Now, a human sensor network can provide similar monitoring in parallel. It's actually a direct pipeline that enables management and executives to see what's going on in the minds and the hearts of the employees. And it also enables workers, through their stories, to influence top management in what resonates with them. Our idea is to strengthen or build 3 key resilience capabilities: fast recovery, rapid exploitation of an emerging opportunity, and early detection prior to actual failure. We believe these 3 will enable organizations to achieve sustainability.
You can make a difference.
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 Ustedes pueden marcar la diferencia.
Y ustedes pueden marcar la diferencia.
So just like these Gold Corp employees who pledged to make a difference, so can you, and so can we. The disruptive idea in our proposal, through that we believe we can make a difference, a paradigm shifting difference. And it will be a first-time implementation in a Canadian mining company. This is another opportunity for Goldcorp and Integra Gold to demonstrate change leadership that touches all segments of the mining life cycle. We believe everyone cares. However, the thinking about safety needs to be disruptive. The act of moving into the safety age of cognitive complexity will require leadership and courage, and we can provide the support to make it happen. That's why our proposal should be considered for selection.
Thank you.
For your time and attention.